Hey everyone, I'm John Sisson, and today we're taking a look at the Sony a6300. The a6300 is Sony's newest top-of-the-line APS-C E-mount camera and sits above the a6000 and has a stronger build and some pretty interesting characteristics to make this a compelling reason to choose a mirrorless camera over a DSLR. Now, to quickly go over the specs, there's a new 24 megapixel sensor, a crazy 425 phase detection autofocus points, 4K video, Full HD video with the ability to go up to 120 frames per second. So that's going to be great for slow motion video, Wi-Fi, NFC, all of that in a weather resistant and a compact body. So stay tuned as I take the camera through a test run, and I'll let you know at the end of the video if it's the camera for you. The a6300 has a strong magnesium alloy body and feels like a very solid piece of gear. It certainly feels more solid than the a6000, which essentially has the same design. If you want a quick tour of the camera, click the link at the bottom of the video or the link in the description below to view my unboxing video, which shows you what's in the box, as well as a walkthrough around the camera. If you already watched it, let's continue. Now the camera weighs approximately 404 grams, and that's with the battery and the memory card included. So it's not exactly a heavy camera to walk around with, but that's also going to be dependent on the lens that you use. But if there's one lens that I would recommend using it with, it's the Carl Zeiss 16-70mm f4. It's a lot better in terms of quality and build compared to the kit lens, which is a 16-50. You do get a good range and you do get a constant aperture of f4. And like I said, I feel like it's a perfect match for the a6300. Now, if there's one downside, it would be that this lens is not weather sealed as well. The viewfinder is an OLED 2.36 million dot viewfinder with the added ability to go to 120 frames per second to make it easier to track fast moving subjects. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Sony having improved the speed of the camera, and it's a bit unfortunate to see there is still a bit of a lag between switching between the LCD and the viewfinder, although it has been improved compared to previous models. Now, if there's one thing people complain about, it's the menu system. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and even myself, I go through the menu system often trying to look for a particular thing, and with the amount of features that are in the camera, it can be a bit frustrating. Luckily, there are a few customizable buttons and the quick function menu to quickly change your settings on the fly. And although it's a step in the right direction, there is still a lot of work that can be done to alleviate this issue. If there is one single thing that Sony is bragging about, it's the autofocusing speed of the camera. Like I mentioned earlier, the a6300 has a crazy 425 phase detection autofocusing system, plus 169 contrast detection autofocus points. This basically means it's going to be very accurate and quick to focus in photos as well as videos. The autofocusing points cover pretty much the entire frame, so if you're doing sports or wildlife photography, this looks like a great choice. Okay, so this is just a quick clip to show you how well the tracking capabilities of the a6300 does, especially if you're doing documentary style videos. Right now I've got the a6300 in continuous autofocus for video, obviously, and I've got the 24-70 f2.8 Sony G Master lens attached. So I'm shooting at 2.8 with the video, so it's going to give me a really blurry background, especially when I'm really close to the lens. And hopefully the camera and the lens in combination can keep up with the movements. So I'm going to do this one more time and go a lot faster in. With mirrorless cameras that shoot at high frame rates, they would only show the picture that was taken and not exactly a live view feed, so it was difficult to track subjects that were moving fast. But with this camera, it allows you to not only get autofocusing, but get a live view feed while shooting at 8 frames per second. Now, this is a great feature to have, and in fact this blurs the line between mirrorless and DSLRs even more. Keep in mind the camera can shoot up to 11 frames per second, which is the same as the a6000 before it, but you won't get the live view feed. The camera takes about 2 seconds to power up to take a photo and about 1.5 seconds to shut down. The camera has been improved in terms of overheating compared to its predecessor, but it's not exactly free of this issue. While I didn't exactly encounter any overheating myself intentionally, if it's in a hot environment or if you're shooting in the sun, expect overheating to occur. A good way to ease the overheating issue though is to tilt the screen outward from the body and open the side door of the camera so it acts as a heatsink. Battery life is rated for about 350 to 400 shots, give or take, so it's about half that of a DSLR in the same class like the Nikon D70-200 or the Canon 7D Mark II. So I do recommend grabbing a few extra batteries if you're going out for a shoot. Now there are so many features on this camera, I'm not going to cover them all, but to quickly name a few, you've got sweep panorama, picture effects, HDR, Wi-Fi, NFC, play memories, which you can actually use to get more apps, and yeah, just a whole lot more. The camera features the same amount of resolution compared to the A6000, which is 24 megapixels. However, it's not the exact same sensor as it now features copper wiring, which aids in low light performance. The camera can also shoot up to ISO 51200. Going all the way up to 12800, it's a setting that I would usually leave as a last resort, but the camera still holds its own in my opinion. And to be honest, I wouldn't hesitate going up to ISO 25600 if I really needed to, although you do begin to lose a lot of detail in your shots. The camera has seen significant upgrades since its predecessor, and one of those is of course the ability to attach an external microphone, which was previously a pet peeve of mine since the NEX6. And while it is a step forward, they have not included a headphone jack to monitor the sound, which nowadays seems to go hand in hand of each other. Autofocusing in video is very fast and smooth, and if you prefer using manual focus, you have peaking to aid in achieving focus. Amongst other video features like S-Log3, Gamma Display Assist, and a clean HDMI output, you now have 4K video shooting and slow motion shooting up to 120 frames per second. Keep in mind, if you are shooting in slow motion video, the video will crop. And if you're wondering how well the camera did in low light situations, click the little box at the bottom of the video or click the link in the description below. In my opinion, the Sony a6300 is a great reason to go over a DSLR instead of a mirrorless camera in the same price point. It pretty much offers, in terms of features, everything that you can ask for. Autofocusing is very fast, very accurate. The only downside that I think Sony needs to iron out is the menu system, which a lot of people are complaining about. A lot of people who are entering the Sony E-mount system will complain or may find it a bit too overwhelming in terms of how many settings there are that you have to choose from. Even people like myself will find it a bit difficult because of the amount of features that there are. To alleviate this, there are some customizable buttons, but I feel like there is still some way to go with Sony trying to improve the menu system and using the customizable buttons. Now, another downside is the battery life, so I do recommend carrying about 2 or 3 extra batteries, just depends on how often or what you shoot. There's also the startup times, which I've never been a big fan of because it usually takes about maybe 1 to 2 seconds from startup to take a photo. So that is, I guess, in my opinion, very slow. Now, things I wish Sony would have included would be a touchscreen for like touch to focus, whether you're doing photos or videos. Whether or not you use this feature often, I feel that it's a feature that I think a lot of cameras should have now, considering other brands are doing it as well, Olympus, Panasonic, and Canon. Another feature is a headphone jack to monitor the sound. So if you're doing video, that would be a great option to have. You do have a mic input, which is a great step in the right direction, but I feel like I said earlier, having a headphone jack is something that I feel like goes hand in hand. Another feature that I wish Sony would have included would be in-body stabilization. Comparing it to a camera like the Panasonic GX85, that has stabilization built into the body and it works very well, and it's roughly around the same size as this. So hopefully Sony includes that in their next model or some other way, because I know the A7 series can do that. We'll see if Sony can do that in the future. Now, other than that, image quality is fantastic. High ISOs are superb, but I do recommend upgrading from the Sony 16 to 50mm kit lens to a higher quality lens like the Carl Zeiss 16 to 70mm f4 or even the 18 to 105 f4G series lens. I think for video it's going to be a great camera, especially a B camera, but it's best to know the limitations of the camera as well. Rolling shutter is an issue, especially when you're shooting at 4K. In Full HD, it's not as noticeable. And when you're shooting continuously, overheating apparently can occur. I haven't actually experienced it myself, but that's mainly because I'm not really in a hot environment. Usually in a hot environment, it does occur. But like I said before, to alleviate this issue, it's best to tilt the LCD screen just a bit out so it acts as a heat sink, and possibly opening the side door. I know it's not the best option, I mean the best way to fix this problem, but it is a quick fix nonetheless. Now, if you're looking to upgrade from an A6000, I don't really recommend it, but if you're upgrading from a lower end model like the A3000 or the A5000, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're upgrading from a compact camera or just looking to get into the Sony E-mount system. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below, and if you already own one, let me know what you think of it. Have you received any, have you had any issues with overheating? How's the rolling shutter? Is there any other issues that you feel like are inherent in the A6300? Be sure to like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more Sony camera reviews and tutorials. Be also sure to like my Facebook page and follow me on Instagram for more photo updates and sample photos. Until then, happy shooting and thanks for watching.